We have some breaking news. This, according to On3, Cal is working to finalize a deal to make Oregon defensive coordinator Tosh Lupoi its next head coach. That, according to Pete Nakos. I don't know how to say that.
Yes.
I think it's Nakos.
Nakos.
So
this, my apologies to my apologies to Pete.
Dude, this thing changes like literally like by the hour. So, but this is kind of what we thought all along. The Will Stein thing kind of came out of a little bit of left field until Stoops got fired at Kentucky. Like there wasn't a whisper, there wasn't a mouse fart of Will Stein going anywhere. In fact, we were talking about on the program not too long ago that it was kind of weird that as good as Oregon's offense has been, and you know whatever you think of this version of it, it's a top 10 scoring offense in the country.
Oh, I think he's doing his best job this year he's ever done.
Yeah, with some of the injuries they have, and especially at the receiver position, and he's done a really nice job. And I'm just surprised that his name wasn't more out there. But as soon as the Kentucky job opened up, it was basically Will Stein or nothing. And as soon as Wilcox got fired, Lupoi was the first name that got thrown out there. So it was kind of like the idea of, do they go Rolovich or do they go Lupoi? And the fact that it was signing day and that we hadn't heard the Lupoi thing finalized, now it was kind of like, where are we going with this? But here we go, and it sounds like Lupoi will probably be the guy. But Stein's going to stick around until Oregon's done, and my guess is that Lupoi will also stick around until Oregon's done.
I would think. I mean, they have national title aspirations,
yes.
and we can get into the validity of that and whether or not they legitimately could win a national title, if they're a little bit of a long shot, whatever. But I guarantee in that locker room, they feel like if they play their best ball, they could beat anyone on any given day.
Sure.
When you're in that place, you keep going and you keep competing, and I think that's a good thing for the program.
Well, remember, I think it's different when you're a coordinator versus a head coach. I also think it's different when you are a group of 5 or now group of 6 trying to go up. So the John Summerall thing, or you know, someone of that, because we've been told that North Texas, Tulane, they're fine if one of those teams is going to make the playoff, and their new schools are fine. Was Oklahoma State and Florida are fine with their coaches continuing on to the college football playoff. I think there is a vast difference between Lane Kiffin wanting to stay at Ole Miss and Summerall, the difference between Tulane and Florida, or in this case, coordinators. I think you can do both.
Sure.
You know, and so I don't think that some people have brought up, you know, the conflict of interest. I don't think Dan Lanning is concerned with the conflict of interest. Is there going to be distractions? Sure. Is there going to be split duties? Absolutely. Is it ideal? No. But I think it's better to let these guys continue than to try to cut ties and promote from within and go without your play caller on either side of the ball. I just don't think that that's a real feasible way to go about trying to win a national title if you're Oregon.
If you're Oregon and you're looking at the potential, and it's likely they're both being reported, right? That both of your coordinators go. Which one is more concerning for you if you're Dan Lanning?
Will Stein. Okay. It's not even close.
Okay.
Like, to me, if you're a defensive-minded coach, and look, Dan Lanning has his fingers all over this, right? Like, Dan Lanning, when you're a head coach, there's very few head coaches out there that are truly the offense or defensive coordinators. It happens.
So it's Dan Lanning's defense in Lupoi's image?
Yes.
Okay.
And that was even Nick Saban.
Yeah,
right?
That's true.
And Saban might be the best defensive mind we've seen in college football history. And the idea with Saban was whoever he hired was going to run the Nick Saban system.
Right.
It's like, hey, if you want to come in and do this, great. And you could put your own spin on it, but this is the way we do things. And you are going to learn my way of doing things, and then I'm going to turn it over to you and I will have input. Right. And my guess is that is the way most CEO coaches do it. Like Kiffin was a play caller. Riley's a play caller. I mean, it happens.
Yeah.
It does. But for the most part, the vast majority of coaches in the NFL and in college are CEOs. They're not offense defensive coordinators. And so to me, having Lanning be a defensive guy, my guess is his fingerprints are more so on the defense than they are the offense. And so the idea of losing your offensive play caller that has that relationship with his quarterback, that's in those rhythms on a day-to-day basis, to me, that's a much bigger deal than replacing a defensive guy that is probably going to come in and say, look, this is the way we do things on defense. This is the way, these are the schemes, like Oregon right now. Like, I really like this 3 high safety look. We've been playing with this. I want you to work in the confines of this.
Okay.
As opposed to Stein, and who knows, maybe they could promote from within. But if you go get a different offensive coordinator, there could absolutely be a different feel to it. The other one I think to remember here in the Oregon Stein thing is, does this play a role in whether Dante Moore comes back? I think that's a fair question to ask at this point.
Yeah, if you're Dante Moore, there's a lot to consider.
Yeah.
And I think anyone who flippantly says, well, he's going to stay no matter what, or he's going to go no matter what, you're being silly. There's a lot of factors here. One being quarterbacks who have been one-hit wonders. Now, he had a few games at UCLA, but you wouldn't say they went swimmingly. He's had one good year.
Yeah.
If you look at the last decade of quarterbacks who've had one good
That's
year,
not what you want.
the guy, the poster boy for that is Sam Darnold, who took 4 or 5 years to figure it out, and you could even argue sometimes he's up and down even with the Seattle team that's very good. You factor in that this is a weak year for quarterbacks. As much as we hailed this as the year for quarterbacks, there's going to be so many and you're going to be able to pick whoever. No one is looking at Mendoza, and going, wow, he should stay because Mendoza's so good. Lenoris Sellers is probably coming back. Cade Klubnik didn't blow your hair back. Arch Manning, probably as good as his last month has been, probably needs some more seasoning.
It is the most disappointing.
Sam Levitt didn't pan out. No, we can go. DJ Lagway hasn't been great.
It is the most Damon Williams. It has been the most disappointing, hyped quarterback class that I can remember.
Agreed.
I cannot remember a year where almost every one of the top guys, with the exception of Mendoza, who was borderline.
John Mateer's another one.
Mateer fell off.
Yeah.
The only ones that have really kind of either elevated or proven more elevated, more so than maybe people thought. You remember there was who's going to start, more clearly elevated himself. And Mendoza solidified himself of, we think he can be this, and he was. Outside of that, dude, it's been.
Drew Aller is such an afterthought. We forget that he was being discussed as the number 1 pick.
Yeah.
We totally forgot to even mention him. That's a factor.
Yeah.
Because as much as we think it's silly to just kick the can down the road and say, well, the next year they're going to be good. Yeah. That's what people do. Yeah. They always say, well, then the next year guys are going to figure it out. So there's this opening at the top of the board with multiple teams that are going to need quarterbacks. And then not only that, but Dante, then again, you're factoring in new offensive coordinator and all that. He has to trust that when he goes, whoever the new offensive coordinator is, that he's going to hit the ground running and everything's going to be simpatico. And by the way, it's a whole new offensive line. Yeah. So he's pretty much solidified himself.
He's a top 5 pick.
He's a top 5 pick.
For sure. Dante Moore guaranteed.
It's not guaranteed. It's very, very likely.
You look at the last month, and he kind of went through, and we can talk about this, but I feel like he had that moment, right? He came out of the gate, and it was a rocket ship. Right. And Penn State was like, after the Penn State game, Dante Moore, number 1 player in the draft. And then, you kind of had that midseason swoon a little bit where I think Indiana rattled him a little bit, kind of confused him with some of the looks, and the offense kind of spun their wheels a bit.
Wisconsin wasn't great.
There
were a number of games that
Iowa.
And then even the Iowa game, though, the throw that he had at the end of that game was as good a throw as that is an NFL throw. And you hear this all the time from quarterback evaluators. You can watch an entire college football game, and the quarterback may do 3 things that you can actually say, this translates into the NFL.
Translatable skills are really hard to come by.
And it's the same thing with like left tackles. It's hard because it's such a different game. Dante Moore, the last month of this season, has made every throw that you need a guy to make at the NFL. Whether it was the seam ball to Sadiq, certainly the 2 that he ripped against Washington, one to Malik Benson on the touchdown, in between 4 guys, the one coming out of his own end zone. The one to Iowa is as good a throw as you can possibly make. That might be the best throw of Dante Moore's career. It's insane. I mean, it was unbelievable coverage, and it didn't matter because it was a perfectly placed ball. And some of the indecision stuff has gone away. You're seeing him be more comfortable. So in a field without a lot of NFL-ready guys, if Dante Moore comes out, there's no way Dante Moore, with his size, the athleticism, and the natural way in which he throws the ball, he does not foul past 7 or 8.
Well, and the tools are loud. And we can squint and kind of make it like Bryce Young wasn't the toolsiest guy.
No.
But his tape was pretty good, and he made some throws, and we were able to talk ourselves into him being potentially 1-1. Yeah. Dante Moore's tools are much louder. Yes. That arm talent is not an every class arm talent. No. He's got 1 in every 3 or 4 years level.
He's a natural thrower of the ball, and it comes out of his hands so well. So the only question becomes, Does he want another year of seasoning? Which, by the way, for NFL prospects, him coming back would be phenomenal for him.
It would be the best for his development.
Yes.
It might not be the best for his pocketbook, even in the NIL era.
So do you want to come back another year of seasoning, try to set yourself up better and make a couple $1,000,000? Or do you say, hey, I'm getting feedback from the NFL. And by the way, Matt Miller and a couple of the draft guys, it was basically, Dane Brugler said this, that it was a done deal that Dante Moore is coming back.
Correct.
You're now hearing people that are like, well,
yep. To that point, though,
that he's playing better. He's going to ask for the evaluation.
Yeah.
And now with his offensive coordinator leaving, all I'm saying is I think it went from, I gave no thought to Dante Moore going to the NFL a month ago, and right now you can't say that.
To that point, though, there's got to be an assumption that Dan Lanning, man, he pulled Kenny Dillingham up from Florida State. Look where he ended up now. Will Stein, what was that, like Texas, San Antonio? It was some unknown university. Like, Dan Lanning knows how to hire, and that's got to be a reason that Dante Moore felt comfortable coming back from UCLA, because he knew that all these players understand this craziness, but that's why he came to Oregon. The continuity is there with this staff.
But there is no continuity anymore because your staff is gone. Not only is Will Stein gone, not only is Tosh Lupoi gone, but herein lies the question: how many people does Will Stein take with him? How many Tosh Lupoi take with him? We heard Jamarcus Shepard was introduced today with the Beavs, and again, we'll play some of that. He's taking guys with him from Alabama.
A handful of them.
A handful of them. And that's from Alabama to Oregon State. Now, they're not going to be the top level guys, but you're going to be able to grab some of those. And I'm certain that Will Stein and Tosh Lupoi will both grab some people on his way out the door. And look, I have no idea whether Dante Moore is coming back. Dan Lanning once said that in a microwave world, Dante Moore is a slow cooker sort of guy. And the fact that he came to Oregon to sit for a year after being a 5-star kid that started as a true freshman at UCLA, I think says something to him. But if they make a deep run in the playoff and someone tells Dante Moore, dude, if you come out, you are going to be a top 5 pick. And by the way, here's $35 million guaranteed dollars. Or do you want to go back to Oregon and risk a new staff for $2.5 million? Look, I just think there's a conversation to be had there, and I guarantee Dante Moore is going to be having that conversation. And Will Stein leaving has to be a factor in that conversation that he's having with whoever he's consulting with.
And if you're an Oregon fan, the thing you lean on is, one year successful quarterbacks have not necessarily panned out in the NFL.
Yes.
Dante Moore has been a student of development.
Yes.
In other words, he's understood what it's taken to get to the finish line. And this is also important if you're an Oregon fan. Go back and look at when we've had these decisions in the past. Justin Herbert came back. Sabrina Ionescu came back. Peyton Pritchard came back. We have seen high-level athletes at Oregon consistently come back, and all three had major success after coming back. So if you're talking to Dante and you're the athletic department, you're NIL,
you're whispering.
The collective message can be, look at our superstars who have stayed. We've taken care of them. Peyton Pritchard, point guard of the year. Justin Herbert ends up being a Pro Bowl level quarterback. Sabrina Ionescu, #1 overall pick. When you stay, we take care of you and make sure you had success, and you are a legend. And that does matter. And Oregon has done a great job of packaging that. So that cannot be understated either.
Trust me, if I know Dan Lanning at all, there is a PowerPoint presentation about how they're going to hit the offensive line transfer portal. Some of the young guys that have filled in from an injury standpoint have played really well on that O-line.
Phenomenal.
So we're going to be like, look what we did in the portal last year. We're going to hit it again. All your receivers are basically back, including your best one that's a true freshman. You have 2 backs that we think are going to be absolutely phenomenal, and more are coming. And most of our defense is back to, we are going to win a national title next year. You are going to win a Heisman Trophy. Oh, and by the way, here's what were you making this year? $2 million for NIL. How does 4 grab you? They are going to put a full court press and probably guarantee Dante Moore that whatever offensive coordinator comes in will run the same system. Maybe with some tweaks, but no, we are not reinventing the wheel here. What you were raised here the last 2 years with Will Stein is what we're going to continue with. They're going to make this case, which is why I said, if I'm a betting man, I still think Dante Moore comes back. I just think it's interesting that a lot of the guys that are really deep into the draft were all saying 0 chance he comes out. And now in fact, I saw 2 tweets today that were like, someone asked the question to them. They were asking when Will Stein got the job, they were asking, hey, does this change Dante Moore? And I think it was Matt Miller, and I think his direct one was, that's what I'm looking into right now, ... interesting. Take it for what it's worth, but there's a guy that's tied into these sorts of things, and that certainly wasn't a no. It was, I'm looking into it. Because I guarantee you when that happened, Dante Moore is sitting down with everyone, including Dan Lanning, and they're having this conversation.
Bo Nix stuck around, right, from Dillingham to Will Stein.
Yes.
So this has happened in the last 3-4 years.
Difference is Bo Nix was not a top 5 pick.
But
coming back elevated him to that level. Dante Moore is the best draft prospect Oregon's had since Justin Herbert.
Yeah.
So
at quarterback.
At quarterback, yes.
For sure.
For certain. So we'll see where this goes.